Hello, everybody. Okay, let's get ApeBond on stage. All right, let's give that a quick mic check.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Julian. Doing good. How are you doing?
Doing well. Can you hear
Awesome.
me
Wait,
okay?
sorry, say that again.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's very crisp. That should work out. I guess we are skipping the technical difficulties right away this time. Um,
Hopefully
that
we don't encounter them later.
hopefully everything looking good so far. Hello, everybody joining us. We see Snake Pill, Tangle out. We have a username that I'm probably not able to pronounce. Stoptillion. Hey, there we got you. All right. Okay, joining us. Hello there. Yeah, I'd say we give it a minute for people to arrive and then we get right into it.
Sounds good.
Where are you calling from, Julian?
I am calling from the south of France,
Ah,
near Cannes.
aha. Interesting. Doesn't sound like a French accent though. Am I hearing that right?
Yeah. No French accent on my end, but I am French. I'm actually both French and American, so I got lucky as a
I
kid
see.
growing up learning both. I got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So we hit the 5 o'clock mark. We have some people coming in. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, let's start off with an introduction here. So this is Buildsphere number 5, and we are aiming to allow the community access to the protocols that are going to populate IOTA. And of course, towards the end, everybody will have a chance to get on stage and ask a question here to Julian from ApeBond. And that is the procedure that we are going to follow. So yeah, I think let's start out with an introduction. Let me mention, I'm your host, Jonathan. Now you're good to go, Julian. Please introduce yourself and what you do at ApeBond.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you so much for having us on. Yeah, my name is Julian. I am one of the co-founders of ApeBond, as well as the head of BD. So pretty much in charge of all things public facing, partnerships, conferences, you name it. If it's public facing or we need to sell something to somebody, I'm the one doing it. Um, and yeah, been doing this now for about a little over 3 years, I think, is when we originally launched ApeSwap, but sure we can dig into that, dig into that in a bit here.
Yeah, let's dig right into that. So I would be very much interested, like, what is the idea that made Ape Swap come to be? And then, of course, there has been a transition to now Ape Bond. Can you walk us a little bit about how that came to be?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Actually, funnily enough, the idea for ApeSwap originally, it was meant to be a more of a meme protocol, I'd say. Obviously, it was launched, over 3 years ago now in February 2021. So I think for us, this was a very, very different time in the industry. There really weren't most of the L1, L2, L3s that you have on the market today. It was very much, I'd say, mainly concentrated to Ethereum, BNB, and or BSC as it was called back then, and Polygon, all kind of competing for pretty much the same funds right across the entire market. And at that time, there on BSC especially, there were a lot of, I'd say, like scam coins, meme tokens, honeypots, you name it, lots of yield farming. And I think at that time, a lot of us, or at least the founders of ApeSwap, we've been deep in the DeFi summer on Ethereum, had a great time over there. And then I think things started to die down a bit, especially as PancakeSwap and activity on Binance Smart Chain started to really pick up some steam. So we were over there just farming on every degen protocol you could think of, like Goose Finance or Gelato. I'm sure a lot of people will recognize some of these more degen protocols and names. Another one was Kebab. I mean, you name it, you name the food or dog, and it probably existed back then. I guess not so much dog back then, more more food items. But yeah, anyway, we'd been involved in all of these, and at a certain point, we figured, hey, we could probably do something like this, but a lot better, and actually, I guess have something behind it, instead of just a meme token, and grow a community around something. And so, yeah, that's how ApeSwap came to be. We figured we'd launch a DEX. Everyone else was just doing a yield farm, so we figured we'd do a decentralized exchange and have those two kind of go hand in hand, and again provide a bit more value than just doing a yield farm. And I mean, as soon as we launched, it blew up. We did this fair launch and kind of early farming frenzy, and everything really blew up. A lot of us quit our jobs at that time and decided to go full time ApeSwap, and that's, I mean, honestly, that's kind of how we got started. Obviously, it's been a massive transition since then. We went from running one of the largest dexes on BNB chain right behind Pancake. At that time, we had about 750 million in TVL and 1.2 million monthly active users. It was a great bull run, right, to say the least. But obviously, we wanted to provide a bit more value to the market than just running a Uni V2 fork, and I think really take this audience and community that we built in a new direction, and I guess again just be able to provide a bit more value to them beyond just being a meme token, or again just running a Uni V2 fork. So that's where we experimented with a few different products, and then we ended up coming up with bonds as kind of an amazing solution to a pretty significant problem that we faced. So obviously, being a DEX, we relied pretty extensively on our own token emissions to source liquidity on the exchange. And then beyond our own token emissions, we actually relied quite a bit on our partners' token emissions as well. And so it was kind of this, I'd almost call it Ponzonomics cycle of us constantly pushing out tokens, us encouraging all of our partners and the projects that we worked with to push out tokens. And we weren't the only ones doing this, obviously, in the last bull cycle, but I think it turned into an environment that definitely participated and led to, obviously Pancake and all the other, Sushi, all the other dexes out there. We're all doing the same thing, but I think contributed in part definitely to the bear market and to, a lot of projects finding themselves in a pretty bad spot. And I think, during the early days of yield farming, we all thought it was this amazing solution. And honestly, it is in a lot of ways, right? It's great for bootstrapping initial liquidity. It's great to get initial traction and activity going. But long term, we've learned now, and I think a lot of people, even the users, it's definitely trickled down at this point to the users as well, that it's not sustainable, right? At the end of the day, especially as a project, you're just emitting tokens consistently for very low value in return, or I guess temporary value, right? We like to think of it as renting liquidity today. And in effect, you're just outputting tokens, temporarily renting liquidity. But as soon as you're done outputting those tokens, that liquidity will dry up, and there won't be anything left over, right? So in effect, after a certain time, you're kind of just left with those tokens having been emitted and having no value in return. So anyway, this was a pretty major problem for us, obviously being a DEX. And, we saw a future where as the market continued to decline, as our token value declined, we'd probably be left without any liquidity on the DEX. And, a lot of other projects would face the same issue to a lesser extent, obviously, since they're not everybody is a DEX, but every token needs liquidity, right? So that's where we looked at bonds as a solution to help projects effectively take the tokens that they were already emitting for yield farming purposes and just take those and effectively generate a return on those tokens without having to just sell them on the open market directly, right? And the way that we're able to do that is by effectively creating a decentralized, I like to think of it as a decentralized OTC market, where projects are able to effectively distribute tokens at slightly discounted rates, vested over time to users, or really any counterparty. It could be institutionals, VCs, but right now it's mainly retail users who obviously want to purchase this token, ideally who want to hold on to it. But obviously we've got some people who are just, investors jumping in, jumping out. But for the most part, it's users who want to come in and hold over the long term. And so using this product, the early vision, I'd say, for us really was, how can we help projects build liquidity more sustainably? But then, as I mentioned, we quickly realized that we'd caught on to something that was a bit bigger than just liquidity. And we still have a massive, massive focus on liquidity. Obviously, I think that's, big part of where we came from, given that we were at DEX and, that's where a lot of our roots are from. But today we're seeing it a lot more as a decentralized OTC market. And yeah, that's kind of what we've been up to and where we came from. Sorry, I know that was pretty long winded, but there's a lot that kind of went into this, the transition from ApeSwap to ApeBond.
Yeah, that was great. I felt like being taken down memory lane, DeFi summer on ETH, Goose Finance. Yes, I'm getting a little bit nostalgic about all that. Good times indeed. And yeah, very interesting that you evolved out of this need for bringing some sustainability to the place, to the space. I mean, it kind of caught on already. You don't really see $1 trillion API anymore on yield farms usually. So I feel like the market has cooled down a little bit, probably a good thing. So yeah, very interesting how you arrived at this. So I'm wondering now, let's get this maybe out of the way for all of the people that are wondering, why is there a space between IOTA and ApeBond happening? Of course, all of the avid readers of our blog already know, but maybe you can explain a little bit about the background of this space happening. What is your plan with IOTA?
Yes, absolutely. So effectively, we are bringing the bonds product to IOTA, right? I think that's the biggest thing that's happening here. And obviously what this means for the IOTA ecosystem is a few things. First, we'll have bonds available with the IOTA token, which I think, should be pretty meaningful and pretty awesome for the community. There'll be an opportunity to access those tokens at slightly discounted rates, vested over a period of time. But then mainly the bonds product will be available on IOTA, which means, all the projects that are deploying on IOTA, coming to IOTA, or thinking about coming to IOTA, will be able to tap into the bonds tech and obviously leverage that to, number of ways, right? Build liquidity on chain, which I think is one of the main things that we're excited about, that you guys are excited about, but as well for those projects to be able to fund themselves sustainably or continue to fund themselves operationally, generate some additional revenue, and of course for their communities to be able to tap into those tokens at discounted rates as well. Definitely a great way to double down on kind of the belief in the project, and get involved in kind of another financial instrument. But yeah, very excited. This has been a pretty major initiative for us. For the past 2 years, we've been effectively testing bonds on BNB chain and Polygon, mainly BNB chain. Been live on Polygon now for probably about 6 months or so, which has been awesome. But now that we've got all this data and have worked with so many projects, we're really excited about bringing bonds to more chains, and IOTA is definitely the first of this push, and we're really excited about it.
Awesome. I think you're hitting a lot of the right notes here with the community, seeing a lot of emojis flaring up while you talk about coming to IOTA. That is great to see. But I think before we dive deeper into the discussion, let's get out of the way. What is a bond?
Yes, great question. Yeah, so as I very, very briefly touched on, the best way to think about our bonds marketplace is a decentralized, crowdsourced OTC market, right? So when I say, a user is purchasing a bond, it's a little bit similar to how you'd think of a traditional bond, but really what's happening is users are purchasing tokens at slightly discounted rates vested over a period of time. So the way that this actually works, right, and how a user would kind of see this, again, I think it's a very good synonymous way of thinking about it is an OTC deal. For those who aren't familiar, that means an over-the-counter deal. Typically, a lot of projects will engage in effectively liquidating their treasury or distributing their treasury to parties over the counter, meaning without going into the primary market or selling on a decentralized exchange or on a centralized exchange, and effectively just finding that counterparty behind the scenes and exchanging without the tokens ever hitting the open market. So that's effectively what's happening here, right? We work with individual projects and help them take tokens from their treasury and distribute them to the community in a way that actually helps them generate income, either in the form of liquidity or in the form of stable coins. And this is something that, projects are actively doing all the time already. For the most part, they do this either, as mentioned, through OTC deals, if they're able to find the right counterparties and brokers to make that happen. Or, and most projects will typically engage in both of these, they'll actively liquidate with market makers as well on centralized exchanges, which, obviously as a community member is probably not something that you want projects doing too much, where they're effectively just selling into buy pressure on a centralized exchange. So here, this is, effectively another or a third complementary option to all of these, where projects are effectively, again, able to get these tokens into users' hands directly. Users are able to pay a little bit less than what they would pay on the open market. Tokens are vested linearly over a period of time, and everyone wins.
Amazing. Thanks for that. So let me try to deepen my understanding here a little bit more. So can you explain a little bit how the discount comes into effect? Wondering about that. Can you explain what is there for projects to gain, and especially in phase of offering discounted tokens?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, the discount itself, right? Where does that discount come from? So the discount, in effect, it's a dynamic discount that's going to be based on the spot price of a token, right? And so when I say it's dynamic, what I mean is the discount can actually increase or decrease based on a few things. Namely, that's going to be based on market demand. So how many users are actually purchasing the bonds versus how many users are, not purchasing the bonds. The more users are purchasing, the lower the discount will go. The less users are purchasing, the higher the discount will go. And it's also dictated by our actual bond sales algorithms in the smart contracts. We look to actually set a sales rate, right? An ideal pace at which the bond should sell, which will actually dictate how quickly the discount will increase or how quickly it'll decay, again, based on that market participation. Now, where the discount actually comes from, right, where the users are, I guess, making their money here, the tokens, when a project sends over tokens, the tokens are actually contained within the smart contract, right? So as a user, let's say, and we'll keep the maths just pretty simple and straightforward here. It might not be 100% accurate, but for the sake of the example, let's say you're a user and you want to buy $100 worth of a token that's available on our platform in a bond at a 5% discount. You'll effectively be paying $95 to get that $100 worth of token linearly distributed to you over 30 days. So that's where the discount comes from. It comes from the tokens that are, within the smart contract. And again, the discount is based on spot price. As soon as you make that purchase, you're effectively purchasing a bond. And that's when you start off that 30-day, vesting timer. In terms of the benefits for projects themselves, obviously as a project, a lot of projects, the first question we get is, why would I sell my tokens at a discount instead of just selling on the open market? Well, there's a few things, right? First, you probably don't want to be selling as a project large amounts of your token on the open market. Obviously, that would lead to negative price impact. Your users probably wouldn't be too excited. And again, it's just not the best thing to do if you're, looking to build a long-term project and grow your token price. In terms of solutions that projects today typically have to make money from their token, because, projects do view their token as a pretty big part of their business model. Again, those solutions are fairly limited and the returns can be much, much lower than doing bonds. If you're doing an OTC deal, you could be looking at, a 50% discount or sometimes even more on that side of things. And if you're liquidating with a market maker, you're going to be very limited in the amounts that you can do, as well as, again, potentially tapping into buy pressure, which is definitely something you want to avoid. And on the flip side, from a liquidity perspective, if you are a project who's thinking about building liquidity through something like yield farming, again, you're effectively just distributing your token out for free, without really seeing any long-term benefit beyond that short-term liquidity growth. Once you stop distributing those rewards, you will no longer have that liquidity. So in effect, it's a much better tool when it comes to both, raising stablecoins directly or building liquidity, especially when you factor in the community benefit as well, right? None of these other solutions really allow you to tap into marketing with another project. Obviously, we have a lot of partners. We get a lot of exposure. We have a lot of awareness. We have a few white label partners as well, which increases our reach. So, it's really a win-win-win across the board for projects, especially when you factor in the kind of community growth and marketing side of things as well, which is pretty unique to this.
Yeah, awesome. I've been doing my work and I've been finding out there's actually over 130 partners offering bonds. So I would definitely take that as a proof that there is definitely tangible value to that for all of the projects out there. Rohini, I'm seeing that you're raising your hand. We'll have a chance at the end of the space for everybody to get on stage, pose a question to ApeBond. But let's learn a little bit more about the ApeBond token. So there is the ApeBond token, and I'm able to turn it into the ApeBond token. Can you explain a little bit about the ApeBond token and what the mechanism is to turn it into the ApeBond?
Yeah, great question. So the ApeBond and the ApeBond token, I'd say we're still very early in the life cycle of the token and its utility on the platform. Right now, we have a few kind of early utilities that we've introduced through VE ApeBond. So to cover that quickly, on the ApeBond side of things, all you have to do is purchase ApeBond, go onto the platform where it says lock and stake, and you should be able to convert or actually lock your ApeBond in exchange for VE ApeBond. And right now, that VE ApeBond will actually give you points that reference back to a specific tier. Now, holding that tier can give you a number of benefits. Right now, those benefits are limited to two aspects of the platform, mainly the launchpad, where you need to have certain tier to get access to the launchpad and the different allocations that we have available there, kind of tier based, and what we call flash bonds. So flash bonds are effectively a new bonding mechanism that we've created that is really just a very simple, quick, short, almost instant sale for blue chip assets at very slight discounts that require a tier to actually get access to. So this is something that we're running. We're on pause right now, but we'll be running them again, I think starting next week or the week after. But this is effectively just sales that we host where we sell, $300,000 to $400,000 worth at a time and scaling, of Bitcoin, Ethereum, other blue chip assets from 1% to 3% discount with no vesting terms, which has, been a great way to acquire new users, get them a bit more familiar with bonds and what we do as a whole. And then of course, get them using the platform and introduced to some of the other bonds that we have available on the platform. Now in the future, using VE ApeBond and the tier and points that we have available, we have a few more things coming. We have an announcement that's actually coming in the next couple of weeks, so I don't want to tease too much on that. But we have some additional yield opportunities that will be coming to VE ApeBond stakers. So very excited about that. And then long term, we'll be relating or tying the token back to the actual bonds platform. At the moment, the bonds platform is pretty much uncorrelated to the token, but that'll be coming in the near future.
Awesome. Yeah, let's talk about the ApePad a little bit. So we have, of course, the EVM launched just a few days. There are a lot of people out there in the community eventually having plans on launching an asset. Can you tell me about what is the process to actually make it onto the ApePad? Is there any curation process or does it work permissionlessly?
Great question. Yeah, we are definitely permissioned on the Launchpad side of things. It's a bit of a process, I would say. Definitely, curated process for us. Due diligence, I mean, is pretty straightforward. Any project that's interested in launching with us, we'll have an initial call. We'll review their deck, their blurb, any other, relevant information, tokenomics, things like that. And then from there, we have an internal committee that makes the final decision on that. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense for a launchpad. I can definitely see the rationale there. Yeah, not so great tokens launching on your platform is probably something not so favorable. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense here. Let me take you somewhere completely different, and that is more of a philosophical question, I guess. So seeing that you are growing the list of networks under your belt, I'm wondering, like, what is your vision for the future? Where are we going as Web3, as a blockchain industry? Will we rather be all on one chain in the future, or what is your idea here before I offer too many of my own ideas? Yeah, that would be interesting to know.
Great question. Yeah, I think honestly, I'll answer it in two parts. I guess I'd love to share a bit more on kind of our vision and what our thoughts are and why we're going cross chain. And then definitely can touch on, where I think the industry is going as a whole. But from my perspective right now and kind of our vision with the product is, we feel like we spent the past 2 years establishing a good baseline of metrics and numbers and, working with quite a few clients to showcase that the product works. We found good product market fit. We have a good user base of recurring users. And, when new users come in, they tend to get pretty sticky and come back and buy a lot of bonds on a recurring basis, which has been amazing to see, right? But we recognize that we're still very much in the early stages of this product and this kind of narrative that we're trying to build. And I think that's really the next step for us. We are through white label opportunities, through these different cross-chain opportunities that we're seeking out. We're really just trying to get bonds out there as much as possible. The concept, the idea, I just want to stand on a soapbox and talk about bonds and their benefits all day with the goal of, really getting the idea of bonds to be as ubiquitous as something like yield farming or staking. You know what I mean? And for us, it doesn't even matter if we end up being the owners of bonds. It's, a concept that we just think provides so much value to the industry and makes so much sense that it just needs to get out there more, And so to that end, right now, we're just trying to, again, hop on a soapbox and talk about bonds to as many people as possible, get as many projects on board as possible, and just try to really get this out there and make as much noise. Now, in terms of the industry itself, I personally think we're getting to a place where we're very much oversaturated with networks. Lots of different chains. Everybody's competing for the same money to a certain extent. There's not a lot of new money coming into the industry right now, it seems. So, I think I see both sides of the argument. I know a lot of people tend to complain about how many L2s are coming up, how many networks are, so VC funded, et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, I think that really is decentralization coming to fruition, right? If we weren't decentralized to this extent, we wouldn't be able to compete in the way that we're competing. And, there might be a lot of networks and it might be an oversaturated market, a lot of wasted dollars going into a lot of ghost chains. But at the end of the day, the market will choose the winners. And this is all part of the process. And, we have to go through kind of building and destroying until we get to those clear winners. And you need losers to find the winners. So I guess.
Yeah, beautifully said. I don't really think I have any additions to make to that. I'm also very much of the opinion that there are a lot of chains out there who are falling for this fallacy that you were alluding to earlier. They are basically bribing people into using their protocols. I mean, that is pretty common, but the sustainability is kind of questionable for some chains that I'm seeing. So yeah, finding something that has real utility, that is going beyond just bribing people to use your protocol, but really brings a tangible benefit. I'm pretty excited that we are on a path there. I want to believe it, at least. The signs are there. So yeah, I like to be in this camp as well. Awesome. That is basically addressing all of the questions that we had. So this is your chance here. If you want to throw a question at ApeBond, then please let us know now. We had some hands raised earlier. And I've been also looking at the Twitter comments. There are no questions, but there is a lot of love pouring out. We have Greg Ape Mundo. I cannot say what you have been tweeting, but thank you. That is great to read. And yeah, Crypto Degen being excited about this partnership. So yeah, thank you for the feedback that we got here. So in the meanwhile, while people are contemplating whether they should get on stage or not, Julian, maybe a good chance for you to let us know where is the best place to learn more about ApeBond. This is your chance to aggressively shill all your socials.
Yes, amazing. Obviously, I think one of the best places to keep up with any of our news is obviously here on X or on Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at ApeBond. This account that I'm speaking from right now, obviously. Our website is also an awesome place to check out and dip a toe into the bonding sphere, maybe learn a little bit more and just see, what we've got on offer. Ape.bond is the URL there for that. And then if you're just, interested in bonds and maybe just learning a bit more, on how they work and, what the mechanisms are behind them, the math, etc. That would be docs.ape.bond. Pretty straightforward with all the links there across the board.
Awesome. Yeah. Also, congratulations. Your docs are very thorough. I had a really good time reading through them. So yeah, they stand out in a sea of not so great docs. So kudos to that. And yeah, I think we have nobody wanting to get on stage. There's always a good sign that you were very concise in your answer. So hats off, sir. Been a good time with you. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of our listeners. And we have Tina Roy coming in last minute. Awesome. Tina, let's get you on stage. And let's see if the technical difficulties come back to haunt us or if that is going to work out. So far expected. You let somebody on stage, they vanish from the speaking list, and there you are, Tina. Hello there. Let's hear your question, please. Yeah, you unmuted yourself. I think you muted yourself again. Let's give that another shot, please. Yeah, looking good. Your question, please.
So close.
So close, so close. Tina, maybe you get a chance to just ask a question on Discord. Let's get Lil Main L on stage instead. We are going to get to our live question eventually. All right. Lil Main L, let's hear your question, please. Gone from the speaker list so far as expected. Should pop up any second now. Yeah, don't think it's happening. Too bad. All right. So, yeah, please direct your questions at ApeBond on their Discord server, on Twitter. You're going to have an easy time finding all their socials when you're clicking on the ApeBond logo here in this space, following the links from there. So, yeah, I guess that just leaves me with saying thanks, Julian. Thanks to all our listeners. And yeah, hopefully see you around for the next episode of Buildsphere next Tuesday. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.